All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Victoria, and I'm here with Roy Michael. Roy, thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Yeah, so today we want to speak on warehousing here in Hemet in the San Jacinto Valley, where, the warehouse expansion is beginning to show up, and also the resistance of community groups and community organizers and residents alike is beginning to sprout up as well. So, Roy, if you can just share with us, in a top level way, what are some of the concerns? What are some of the risks associated with warehousing and logistics here in
The
Hemet?
biggest problem we have so far is the warehouse complex. It's over 1 million square feet, I believe, that was built at Kirby and Acacia here in Hemet. The protocol was followed, but the protocol is so inaccurate and unbelievably limited that the people that live in beautiful homes right across the street had no idea it was coming. None whatsoever. Same exact problem happened with the Simpson-Warren one. They have to notify people that are like 150 feet away. Very few got notified. You get invited in that notification to what's called an NOP meeting. I think it's notice of proposal. And that's your chance to talk to them and say, hey, we don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody showed up because nobody knew about it. The Simpson-Warren project didn't happen to mention that, it's a warehouse program. It was billed out as the Simpson Road project. And everybody's been around here knows Simpson Road needs some work. So anybody who saw it said, okay, well, no issue there. You had to read 162 words down into the prospectus to first see the word warehouse. Is this transparency? Not even close. The NOP meeting had so few people there. I did a FOIA request to the city of Hemet for all of the letters pro and con that were sent in regarding the Simpson-Warren project. 13.
Wow.
Now, the only reason I found out about the project that's 5 feet from my bedroom right here is because the engineer who was doing the perk test did it right behind my house. So I went out and played nosy neighbor, and got all my questions answered, and come to find out it didn't pass the perk test. But he said, yeah, they're going to be building this giant warehouse project here. And I think, okay, did it pass the perk test? He says, no. And I said, so they can't build it? He says, oh, no. Developers have 100 ways to get around that.
Yeah.
The law doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
So that was when I immediately got together with my people here. There's 1,200 of us here. I let everybody know. When I FOIA'd the request for all the letters that were sent in against the warehouse, we had 413. 1 for, 412 against. That's what community power can do. All of a sudden, the Planning Commission took notice because we had them sitting there 2 hours past their dinner time with like 50-some people talking for a couple of hours. We did the same thing to the city council. We filled the room. We had 72 people there, and continuously, we have been there for a year now, doing everything like this. 3 rules in real estate: location, location, location. You don't build warehouses next to upscale communities, another upscale community with no way to ingress or egress, I hope I'm using those words right, with the massive number of trucks, because they've got a 2-lane bridge that goes to the highway. I was behind a truck. My wife and I were heading to a dental appointment, and I was behind it, and I saw a truck in the left lane at Warren out here on Florida, which takes you right down to Demanagee. And I thought, let me try and follow this and just hope they want to go over the bridge. And they did. So I had my dash cam on. I took the photos of it. And to get over the bridge, first they have to come to a complete stop, because it's a 4-way stop. Then they're going up a bridge. Ever see a semi trying to go up a hill from a dead stop? The front end bounces and everything because they're going through gears so fast. Once he got to the other end, he had to pull all the way out into the far left lane of Demanagee Parkway. In the meantime, the light is turning red, and he's blocking the entire highway. And now you got green light drivers coming up, And you know, people around here, they're looking at the phone, they're texting, they look up, okay, the light's green, I'm good. They're going to kill somebody out there.
Right.
Absolutely kill somebody out there.
I have a question, Roy.
Sure.
In regards to...
I'm a talker, you're going to have to...
No, for sure. I'm a talker too, so I'm
Yeah.
loving this already. When you mentioned the name of the project, that caught me off guard because that seems to be a pattern where a project is named after an infrastructure plan or named after a specific thing that might not appear to be warehousing. Is this a trend that is appearing not just in Hemet?
Oh, yeah.
It's appearing in other cities?
Absolutely. They're all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
You know, we just had a meeting here about this project here saying we've made major changes to the product here next to the lakes at Hemet West. They added some bushes here and some trees there and a little wall here, and they pushed it out a little bit farther. But the property line is 5 feet from my bedroom. You know, and they said, well, there's going to be plenty of flora and fauna. Well, you know, flora and fauna is French for smoke and mirrors. You know, I mean, they do everything they can to try and, well, you know, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. I mean, a classic thing with these people just happened. They're out there right now tilling that piece of ground. There's 66 acres there. Last year,
just right here, you're saying?
Right. I'll show you. It's right out my bedroom window.
For sure.
They're tilling that part. Last year they tilled it, and what the problem is, there's a ton of field mice in that field, and it disrupted them, and we were inundated. They had over 50 calls to the HOA because everybody's house, there were mice all over. I got cats, don't have to worry too much about them.
Right.
You know, they take care of themselves. But 50 people, I mean, there were literally hundreds of them that had run into here. So we spent a year trying to contact them. I sent 212 Markham LLC, which is the company that owns that land, and they're right here in California. And they sent my certified letter back, unable to forward. I mean, what kind of communication is this? So I contacted, 2 months ago, I contacted the fire department to say, hey, this is a fire hazard out here because they're not mowing it. They're cutting in little fire lanes. So now you have 3-year-old dead grass piling up on most of that. Plus, when they till it, the farmer that owned that property before them bought it knew to mow it. Okay, so they're tilling it right now. They started the other day. HOA is already getting complaints. Now, when they were here at their meeting Saturday a week ago, I met with their environmental consultant, and I explained this exact thing to him, that the mice are going to come in, that has to be mowed. He said, I'll make sure I tell him. I talked to him a couple days later. Yes, he's contacted them. They're going to mow it. They're out there tilling right now. This is a Chinese company that thinks we're just a bunch of stupid Americans and they can get over on us. Well, we're loud and we're proud. We run from 55 to 100 years old here, and we have a strong voice. And we're going to stop this project.
And that's a key point you're bringing up, because that's something that, you know, my colleague and I were speaking about before we came here, right? The population here, the type of community this is. Do you feel that you are being targeted in some
absolutely,
way?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How so?
Because we're seniors. We don't have a voice. Put it back to a very low income area. They don't have a voice. Well, you know what? We all have a voice. And I've been fighting this for going on 2 years now. I've got a website for it on Facebook, and it was a year ago today I opened that one up. You know, the Hemet West warehouse project on Facebook. You can look it up.
How many square footage are we talking about in regards? I know you mentioned one project here, but I'm sure there's other projects here, right? How much square footage are we talking about that's being proposed or that's been approved in the last maybe year or two that you know?
The last one that was approved was Kirby.
Okay.
And that's well over $1 million.
Okay.
And plus they've got a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, here's the problem with Hemet. And I feel for the people that are running for Hemet, or that are running Hemet. 2008, this place was really starting to rock. You had a lot of people starting to come in. You had a lot of projects that were going on. Sanderson and between Kirby and Acacia, that whole area, all that, there was a giant shopping center going in there because this was the new west end of Hemet. And then 2008, 2009 hit, and all that money that was going to build that stuff was gone. The story was that they were going to be building a Costco here, but that's not happening because we don't have the demographics now because we lost our curve. So
Interesting.
It's very much economic. Now the company that owns this land we're sitting on wants to build 400 houses on there with high dollar people moving in, all the sales tax from 500 homes, or 400 homes, the income of retired seniors. I have a master's degree. I'm not in here just living on Social Security, and that's the same with quite a lot of people here.
Right.
That's what helps demographics, because when the demographics for City of Hemet is about $53,000 a year is the average. Now, this area right here, we're higher than that, okay? We want to put people in here that won't have trucks that'll be driving through. We don't leave the house every day, and when we do, we go shopping. And we don't go far to shop. We shop right in here in town. A warehouse here, which is going to be a weigh station. What that means is they ship the stuff in, and then it's their West Coast distribution center, and they ship it right out. What good is that doing for us? And why are they doing this 12 to 15 miles from the nearest highway? It doesn't make any sense at all.
That's a great point because, highway, this is 74, right? Highway 74 nearby here.
Yeah.
But that's like a 2-lane highway, right? Or a 4-lane highway. That's not
four
enough.
At best, yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough to, I assume, to accommodate the influx of trucks that are going to come from these projects. Yeah. I had another question in regards to sort of the population here, because I think it fascinates me that, you have these projects really close to sensitive receptors, sensitive communities. And yet it seems like there's a loud voice in the room in those meetings from you all, and I'm sure from other environmental justice groups and others that oppose these projects. What's the response from the council? Or is there any council member or leader in the city that is opposed to this?
The Newland-Simpson program was voted down unanimously by the Planning Commission because it didn't pass the environmental test.
Okay.
It was horrible for it.
Okay.
Then the city council voted it down. 5-0. Said, no, we're not going to build it. Then the next city council meeting, they said, well, let's give them another shot to maybe they want to make some changes or something like that, and we'll look at that and see how it goes. There still hasn't been an environmental report released. We're only 2 miles from the other one where the environmental report, it's the same piece of land. It wasn't even close to passing. You've got AB 98, which is new California law that comes into effect, I think, the second week of January, which severely restricts what warehouses can do. First of all, they have to be 500 feet from a sensitive receptor. They changed it from, I think, 150 to 300. That's not 500.
That's not 1,000, like a lot of people have pushed for, right?
Like 1,000. Yeah, they turned down the one in Moreno Valley that was 1,000, but it was too close,
right,
to a community.
Right.
So they're under pressure. I mean, warehouses are big money for the developers. A warehouse rents out in Inland Empire for anywhere between $15 a square foot to $45 a square foot per year. So even at $15 a square foot, you got a 1 million square foot warehouse. That's $15 million a year that they're getting paid. All they got to do is build it and put in a renter.
Yeah.
And some might say are 45. That's 45 million.
Yeah.
No wonder they want to build them. But the problem is, Hemet has become a target for warehouse developers because nobody else will let them in. Ontario's saying no. Fontana's saying no. All the,
So this is the new frontier?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And in regards to, because I'm sure, we're all aware of general plans. I'm sure you're very aware of the general plan and sort of the vision and the goal of Hemet. What is in that plan? I'm assuming it's a lot of warehousing, it's a lot of logistics, it's a lot of commercial development, right?
Well, not if I have anything to do with it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that's actually their plan, is to really load it up with warehouses. San Jacinto's got a major one. If you get up around past Cottonwood on heading up to Route 10, they've got like 11 million square feet.
That's going north, right?
Planned in there. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to get up to Route 10 with 20 or 30 semis in front of you? It's hard
Yeah.
enough for most cars to hit the speed limit going up there.
Sure.
What do you think the semis are going to do?
Sure, yeah.
And then you've got California Avenue there, which has a light. And then you've got the trash place, which has a light. So they're going to get stopped
Lamb Canyon?
every 5 minutes.
Is that Lamb Canyon? Sorry.
Yeah, Lamb Canyon. Yeah, exactly. They're going to get stopped every 5 minutes for the light. It's just going to be an absolute disaster. I've seen photos and photos and photos over the last year of just regular traffic. It's a disaster up there. Especially when they've been putting in all those guardrails because everybody kept flipping off the highway.
Yeah,
You know, it's a
sure.
mess.
Yeah.
And that's not something they're going to be able to put another lane in.
Right.
You know, they're running right into the mountain, and the cost there is unbelievable. Speaking of cost, what they're talking about now is the cost of roads. The road, according to AB 98, it has to be an established truck route in order to put a warehouse there so the trucks can get in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they plan on using is the established truck route. 3/4 of their entrance is a dirt road. That's not an established truck route, you know. But granted, these are all loopholes because this doesn't go into effect till mid-January. But the spirit of the law, it was overwhelmingly passed in Congress in California, based on an overwhelming objective of slowing down warehouses, based on the citizens of California. It's the will of the people. If you can't vote with the will of the people, what are you doing?
Yeah, you said something earlier, not if I have something to do with it, right? And stopping these projects. Can you elaborate on what you mean exactly? Like what kind of tools, advocacy tools that you're using?
Yeah. Before I saw the guy doing the perk test, I was retired. Biggest thing I had to look forward to was playing poker. And then this started. I've spent going on 2 years, maybe a little over 2 years, fighting this, energizing my community. I worked with the folks at Newland Simpson down there and that live there, and I got them going, and that was voted down. And now the owner of the land had a meeting right up here at Golden Valley, and you know, we're making major changes. It was again flora and fauna, you know. And then when he was confronted with, you know, we really don't want this here, he said, well, if you don't let me build this, I'll build a prison here. I'm like, what? Are you crazy?
Why a prison though? Because it's out in
Because California will let him do it.
Interesting.
But here's the issue. I think it was 10 years ago, he was in a lawsuit against San Diego for similar stuff, trying to build the wrong thing in the wrong place. And guess what he said to them?
What did he say?
If you don't let me do this, I'll build a prison here. So that's his go-to threat. Is this the kind of person you want to invite into your community and do business with?
Right.
No. So, you know, I become, somebody say I'm a community organizer. I hope so, you know, because I've got all of it. We've got a petition that we had signed, physically signed, 360 some people out of 1,200. And this we were doing a year and a half ago. Now that it's really getting closer, I'm thinking of taking that petition back out, and my goal is to get it up to more than half the people in here and present that to the city council and say, we don't want this.
Absolutely.
You know, can you imagine the health concerns? We had a young woman, or not more young woman, she was, I think, 60, 70. Her name was Pat. She always had an oxygen tank with her. We've done protests all around the city, and she's out there with her oxygen tank and talking about how this will kill people. Well, she recently passed, but she's looking down on us right now. And that's who I'm fighting for.
Yeah, and I think, you know, based on our society, American society, right, a lot of people argue that elders are not respected enough, right?
No.
That seniors are not respected enough. And so I think it's important for folks who are watching this video, or for our audiences, to understand that, you know, when a community is under threat by whatever, right? Whatever side of the political aisle, that civic engagement is a powerful tool to make a difference in your community.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I know you're saying you're not a community organizer, and but I can definitely see why people do believe that, because you're, you know, you saw an issue, and now you're organizing people in your community, which is the senior community. A follow up, right? The folks over at Newland Simpson, is that also, just to clarify, is that also like a senior community as well, or is it like a mixed community?
I think part of it is over 55, but otherwise it's just a regular community.
Oh,
but those are nice houses. They're a lot more expensive than this one.
Yeah,
Right. But it's a simple amount. Stand up or get told to sit down. We don't get told to sit down. I'm 71 years old. I've been through some stuff you wouldn't believe over the years. Some of it good, some of it bad. But I know who I am, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know what my rights are. And they are trying to infringe on my rights and all the people that live here and the entire city of Hemet. What purpose is it going to serve? It's going to ruin our roads with all the trucks. It's going to ruin our traffic. It's not bringing any taxable income in. We're sitting on annexed land right now, which means the county of Riverside is getting 75% of the personal property taxes. And on this new annexation plan that they have, that's going to be the same deal.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that annexation plan.
Okay, the annexation plan started in 2010. There was a group that put up the idea that, hey, there's all this unincorporated land around here where Diamond Lake is. You go up Warren, on the left side of Warren, all that open field that goes all the way back to the mountains there. There's a few housing developments out there now, but that's it. And then you get on the east side of Hemet, and a big chunk of what everybody believes is Hemet is unincorporated. And then when you get up into the orange groves, and there was been plans, the 2010 just didn't go anywhere. Then in 2022, a man named Garrison put together Hemet United, which to me sounded like the school district, but I would have picked a better name.
Sounds like a soccer team, Hemet United.
Yeah, Hemet United, exactly. And they petitioned. They did a petition out to people that lived in the unincorporated part, and they got like 1,080 or so signatures, and it's based on 5% of the number of people in there, and it was contested a little bit, but they eventually won. In fact, I've got a copy of the thing that says they did. And so they were able to present this, and they worked on it, but it really wasn't getting anywhere. And then this January, Mr. Garrison passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. He wanted to do the good fight. And I really don't have a problem with annexation as long as what's going to be built is going to be in the right location. That's not a problem for me.
Right. Even if that includes warehousing, as long as it's zoned in a place that's...
If it's way up Warren on the left-hand side, all the warehouses in the world can go up there. They could shoot right down Ramona Avenue. They could shoot down, what's the other one that the Scientology church is on, and get out of town or take a tent. So they got 3 ways to get out, and they're not driving through Sanderson and Florida, which is already a D-rated, A through F, D-rated intersection for traffic. And they want to make that one of the main places to go through. Yeah, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah, no, I think on the annexation, from what I understand, and I'm still learning about this, right? But there's some concerns about whether this revenue that could come from this annexation, from the development on all these different things, is really going to go back into the community services, or if it's going to really benefit Hemet.
The new name is, with a new group, and some of the same group, but without Mr. Garrison, is Hemet Rising. Now, somebody's got a marketing degree, because that's a good one. You want to do that. I was in marketing. And there's the 3 people that I know, 3 of the women. One is a real estate agent, obvious reason to be involved. One is a former mayor, and one is a former planning commissioner member. So if you're going to present and push a project like that, these are the kind of people you need. I mean, no question. But my worry is, okay, all this extra land, who's going to pay for all the services? Okay, they're saying that Hemet will net $3 million a year. Well, here's the problem. We'd also at that point be adopting 124 miles of road. Minimum for a mile of road is $1 million. So I'm not seeing maybe that they're factoring in taking care of roads, especially if they're going to increase traffic drastically. They're talking about the I think it's called the Orange Valley Project, which is all the way down on the left just before you get up to where you're going to head up to Idlewild. with a lot of high density and some middle density and very little low density housing in there. That's a lot of people. That's a big piece. Plus, one thing I do like, they've got a 6-story senior community set up for it. You know, for people with assisted living and stuff like that, which I think is great. There's a lot of seniors. 30% of this town is seniors, you know.
That's good to know. 30%?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So
That's a high number.
We have a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know where that one is. I think that stalled for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about Diamond Valley Lake. Diamond Valley Lake, it's real simple to see what's going to happen. You've seen all those real nice houses coming in from Menifee. It's like they're sliding down the hill because they're just going to keep on going, and all that land's going to get picked up for that.
So,
and that's good because you're talking $500,000 houses.
Right,
you're talking 150 to 200,000 minimum incomes, and some of them husband and wife dual incomes. I've been in some of those houses. They're nice. I wish I could afford them. You know, so that's fine. Okay. What happens when the demographics get high enough? Costco starts looking. Trader Joe's starts looking. They're thinking, hey, there's people in the town of Hemet that can pay our pricing and support our business so we can make money. That's why they come in here. All the small restaurants in this town that have closed over the last 10 years is because the demographics haven't been growing. People don't go out to eat as much. I mean, if you can't keep, you know, like a Chili's or a Red Robin alive, you know, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel for the city council and the planning commission because they need to do something here because this town is stagnating. But putting warehouses is not the answer. Hopefully an annexation is the answer, but we better see some more real numbers on what's going on. Not just a whole bunch of warehouses here and then a whole bunch of houses down there.
Yeah, I want to ask this question because historically in the Inland Empire, to my understanding, and this has been seen more in the West Valley, kind of in, you know, kind of like in Rialto and all these different cities. But there's been moments where in Bloomington, where there's now a lot of warehousing, right? And like southwestern Rialto. Yeah. Rialto is an example of where they annex land. Yeah. And what do they do with that land? They just build more warehousing. Yeah. Is there a concern from you that that could be the story of Hemet if folks aren't careful and they're not being vigilant or being watchdogs over this kind of stuff?
They're trying to pull in 34,000 acres. There's a lot of room on the edges of Hemet and the edges of this annexation. You want to put warehouses in there and you've got good ability to bring that traffic in and out. I'm not against warehouses. I'm against where they're trying to put some of them. Yeah. Warehouses are the lifeblood of the trucking industry, which moves more stuff around this country than anything else. We need them. We have to have them. The problem is when COVID came out, everybody was shopping online and they had to build all these warehouses. And then COVID's over. You've got Amazon closing warehouses. Kroger is pulling out of here. They're closing their warehouses. There were 700, I think by count, 768 empty warehouses in the Inland Empire as of a couple of months ago. Why go through all the trouble and hassle to build one next to a community when these are all lined up, all up and down, 15, 215, and 10, and you can buy them and move in tomorrow, where they're talking 2 years of construction here, which is going to drive us nuts.
What would you want here instead of a warehouse if you had it your way?
The company that owns the land we're sitting on wants to put 400 more of these right there. They'd be perfect. Yeah. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And if they throw in a movie theater, we'd really appreciate it.
or like a shopping center, right? Where there's
a multi-shopping center there, would be fine.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But they want to put in houses. I mean, I've lived here for 10 years and it's been wonderful. And then the last 2 years has driven me crazy.
Yeah. Well, any last comments? Any last thoughts? We want to thank you for your time and for your knowledge.
Anything you'd like to share? Absolutely, my pleasure. I need to get the word out to let people know that if you don't stand up and do something about this, then the stuff like this, like the warehouse that got built on Kirby, is going to happen. I mean, on Kirby, they said, you know, we're going to put all this flora and fauna in, which we all know is smoke and mirrors. I went over and saw the trees they put up. I'm taller than the trees they put up. That thing is 50 to 60 feet high. 30 years from now, when all of us are dead, you might not be able to see most of this stupid warehouse that's over there.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, and it's been a pleasure to speak to you, Ron.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend.
Of course, of course.